Mr. Kit Young, how are you? Congratulations on this film, but how are you first of all?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm well. Doing all right. January 2024. It's been a bit colder than I wanted it to be in London, but doing well and excited for this film to come out and for everyone to see it.
I bet you are. Do you not? First of all, do you not like the cold? I'm going to be completely straight with you. This is my favorite time of year because when a lot of your career is based around sitting inside watching movies, you don't get FOMO.
That's all right, actually. No, that's not too bad. Yeah, I think I'm all right with the cold. I think I find January has that feeling of like it's the same as December, but without all the kind of festivities. So it's just cold, and you just have to deal with it. I think there's a bit of that.
I get you. No, I,
Yeah.
I, I get you. What we're saying is, if it's going to be cold, you have to base an annual festival around the temperature.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
thought that was clear. I thought we were all on the
yeah.
same page, but apparently not.
No,
Yeah.
I mean it's out there now, so I imagine change is already afoot in the higher echelons of power in this country. So
I
the
hope so.
movie, man, the movie. Wow, what an effing movie! How good is this film?
I mean, I think it's great. I think I had such a great time making it, and I was really excited to see what it was going to turn out like. Because it's the kind of film that I think when you shoot it, you still don't really know what it's going to be,
Hmm.
or it's hard. It's harder for you to kind of really gauge. And so, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh. And so, yeah, I've been really, really excited about it. And everybody I know has also been like, "What's that deal with that film that you did? The one where you're doing a made up language and everyone's out in the wilderness." And I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry, you'll see it." And finally, it is upon us. So yeah,
Finally, well, we're going to talk about when you shot it because it's been a long wait to get
yeah.
this movie out there, but it is here. Before we talk about the the minutia of Out of Darkness, give us a brief rundown about what it's about. And I'm sure you're a pro at this, but I watched it and it's spoiler city, so let's both tread carefully.
Yes, yes, no, exactly. Yeah. So to try and put it into words without spoiling anything, uh, we're in 45,000 BC,
Mm.
and we follow six people, perhaps amongst the first people, who land coming off a boat into a brand new land. May it be Britain, somewhere in Europe, most likely, but they know nothing about this land, and they're trying to get to the mountains, from the beaches to the mountains, to find a safe place to live. But when nightfall comes, they realise that there's something else out there, and we really kind of test human nature and see, you kind of question, if there is a monster, who the real monsters are. Um, and I think that's probably a good way of putting it so far. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well done. That ticks
Hmm.
all the boxes that I wanted ticking in terms of getting the essence of this
Yeah.
horror movie, because it is a horror movie. You said you'd seen it already. Did you see it on the big screen?
I did, yeah. First time I saw it was it kind of did the festival circuit. Uh, well, not last year, the year before actually. But I saw it then for the first time on screen, and I myself was terrified. Like, full confession, I'm not a massive horror buff. Like, I've since really grown to love the genre. There's the few classics I had seen, but I didn't seek horror out.
Mm.
And then after signing on to do the film, I questioned a lot, like, why am I doing this to myself? Um, but I then became like fascinated with kind of everything within horror, and how the story works and why you make certain creative decisions, and so on and so forth. But I was gripping my seat, knowing what was going to happen, but still kind of being like, I don't think I want to see this. I don't think I want to see this. But then kind of being blown away, because I think it's really, really vivid, and I think you're thrown into the center of it, and you can't
Yeah.
you can't escape. There's nowhere to run. Yeah.
Yeah, vivid, thrown into the centre. Yeah, transportive, immersive. I imagine watching it on the big screen as you did. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it on the big screen, but the vistas, the landscape,
Yeah.
the smallness of this band of characters in this vast unknown. It really, even on my TV, I was just like, "Whoa, this is taking me somewhere," which I love about a film. Tell me about Andrew Cumming, the director, who's it's hard to believe this is his debut feature. What was your first
Yeah.
conversation with him?
So I initially remember sending in a tape, and yeah. So this is you mentioned earlier. This is a while ago. This was 2020. So nothing in film is happening, and then I got sent the script through to tape, and honestly, it's the first screenplay I've read, beginning to end, without putting it down at all. I was like, oh, there's something really going on here. And then I did the tape, sent it through, and then they asked me to kind of come back in for it and do it again. And it was only then that they then sprung it on me. Oh, by the way, there will be a made-up language. Like, because I just read it in English and was like, this is cool.
Wait, so the original script that you got was in English?
Yeah, was completely in English. And then they went, I guess they kind of trimmed down who they were looking at, and then they and potentially, they're only so far through the process of creating the language. And then it was at the final recall I met Andrew, and it was like the first in-person meeting that anyone had had for years. And I remember my agent being like, if this thing goes ahead, the only film that anybody knows that is shooting is The Batman, which also dates it for us now. But like, it was just The Batman and nothing else was shooting. And they could do this because it's a small indie film, and also it was going to be incredibly remote. And so I met Andrew, and he was kind of explaining the idea to me, and I was like, this is great. But it was also quite funny, and I think he was also really aware of it. Like, it's this Scottish team making this film up in the Scottish Highlands, and it's these 6 mixed race peoples from all over who are kind of representing the dawn of man. And he was like, yeah, I'm this kind of Scottish white dude who's gonna like do this thing about the beginning of time and destroy everyone. And I was like, dude, whatever your plan is, I'm in. Like, I'm just in. Because we were just really curious to kind of see what it was going to be. Because I think if you're going to do something about the first people, you can really kind of go anywhere. And without spoiling the film, a lot about this film could have happened. For all we know, it could have happened. It's kind of choose your own narrative in terms of what you want to believe kind of is and isn't possible. But I think that was one of the things that was very exciting about it, is that we would arrive on these locations that he'd scouted with his team, and we'd just be like, oh, well, this is it. Like, we don't have to, there weren't a lot of sets. We were just there. And so it was really tremendous. And I just kind of trusted him and went, whatever we're going to do, let's get out there and try and make it, regardless of what the weather says. Yeah.
I was just talking to the PR Chris beforehand. There's a book I read called Sapiens. I don't know if that was.
Yes.
I don't know if you got a reading list for this movie, but anyone who's read maybe the first quarter of Sapiens will have a good idea about what this movie's tackling. But you just touched on it. Then, what was this a research-driven thing? I mean, the obvious question is, how do you research a person in 45,000 years BC, or was it a completely blue sky exercise where it was like, look, we just don't know, so like you say, pick your narrative.
Yeah, there was a bit of both. When it came to the design for the film, and for instance, like our costumes, what we were wearing, all that kind of, there was a lot of research for that, because there were some things that we did that we didn't end up using. Like, we're all in furs for the film, because we can all buy that people wore furs after killing and so on, for warmth. But there was at the beginning, because we get on a boat. This didn't make it into the film, but we basically had like a form of almost like a rain hood. Like a waterproof that was made from seal skin. It was taken from we know that it basically goes that far back that people were able to do that, and it kind of it's very much kind of like in today's modern day like Inuit tradition, but we didn't use it because it kind of looked like a modern day Mac, like it just looked, and I think the worry was, if we really go hard for a look, some people might be not able to distinguish whether it's prehistoric or post-apocalyptic.
Right.
Because you could also be treading in that territory. People kind of go, who are these people in furs but with like yellow Mac hoods, it kind of looks like we're stepping out of a spaceship. So, and
That's
although, yeah,
interesting.
and so it's kind of also trying to make the assumption of what the audience might believe is from the past, and kind of going, yeah, these people are clever, but we don't want them to think they're too clever, even if they are very, very smart,
That's so,
which
I
is
guess
tricky.
there's another version of this movie then where you could play it as a timeless piece, and then at the end of the film go 45,000 years BC, and people go,
Yeah,
"Oh,
exactly.
I was watching the past. I thought I was watching the dystopian future."
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the things that actually Andrew, our director, was really worried about was that like you'd get to the end of the film and then it would pan away and then so you'd just see a skyscraper in the background and you'd be like, I'm not sure. But to be honest, a lot of it is up for interpretation. People can really they really can infer what they like on it because I think the characters themselves are also so you naturally when you watch an ensemble cast of something, you naturally choose one to identify with more than others and kind of go, oh, if I were in this situation, I'd be that one. Um, but I think, we really kind of test that a bit because it might well be that the person that you most back actually then turns around and does something despicable or
Yeah,
meets a very awful end. So I
yeah.
think it's really interesting in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it is as much as there is an external horror in the film. There is very much the internal horror of this group dynamic. You said you're
Yeah.
not a fan of horror. Um, when I use comparisons for a film, in this instance, I'm using them as a massive compliment because I think
Hmm.
that these are both movies that people go, "Cool." There are elements of Predator in there, and you're like, "Oh ho ho!" There
Yes.
is certainly a Blair Witch vibe. I'm not saying it was
Yeah.
influenced by these films. I'm saying like there are moments in it that you go, oh, and the Blair Witch thing, the noises in the woods when you are trapped in those woods with the group and something is in the forest.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like famously, like the filmmakers behind the Blair Witch literally sort of hid in the middle of the night and played tricks on the cast to try and generate that fear. What was your story?
Well, yeah, that was the interesting thing. So yeah, no, those references kind of both really work, I think. And another one of Andrew's influences with the original Alien, just because so much of it is about like the characters at the center not knowing what the thing is, and the thing also as a great reference point. Um, but I think they didn't quite play tricks on us. I think they were worried that they were putting us through too much, um, because we were constantly. I mean, I think so. Me and a couple of others, like we just never got a break. We're just running and running and running, and constantly at like number 10 in terms of like panic levels. I remember when I came back and had to do all the replacement, like the ADR for the film, and basically almost having hyperventilating because you're just constantly stressed. Um, but like more than half the film almost is set at night, or about half the film is set at night. And for us to kind of be true to it, there were a lot of times where basically our light source was the fire that we'd made or the moon, and sometimes just the moon, which was particularly tricky. I remember there was a scene that I had with Chuku, who plays Adem, the leader of the group, plays my older brother. Early in the film, he grabs like a flaming torch and charges out of the camp, and I chase after him, begging him to stay. Because I'm like, if we all get split up, we'll die. And it was on this huge hill, and we had like horizontal rain that you can't really even pick up on camera that was rain. We looked quite dry, but it was very intense conditions. The camera operator and the grip behind him were kind of mudsliding down the hill because it was all kind of steady cam. So he's running backwards. Chuku's chasing him. And then I'm running where the light used to be because Chuku's running with the torch. So there'd be times when we'd be shouting at each other from the dark. They'd be like, Kit, we can't see you. And I'm like, well, I can't see shit. Like we'd all be like screaming in the dark, hoping for the best. And so I think the main thing was just making sure that people didn't get lost. We have one of our actors in particular, Arno, who plays Odal, who's like the elder in the group. He often liked to kind of slightly play tricks on people, and so often he would just like, especially when we're in the woods, because the shooting in the woods is actually really interesting. Even in the light, you'd often have to wrap earlier in the day because you lose light quicker once you're in the thick of the woods. So you actually just can't see as much as you think you can, even if it's 2 p.m. But Arno would just drift off into the woods if he wasn't being used. And then he'd come back in about half an hour. And you'd assume that he'd probably gone off to the loo or gone off to find something. But when he'd come back, you'd always be like, oh my God, where have you been? And so, yeah, the crew were actually the safest ones. I think we were probably the liabilities, most likely.
I guess you're allowed to be a liability on occasion when you have done something that just to try and wrap my head around it. It sounds insane, and almost I just don't understand how as an actor you've got a script that you've read in English, and then they go, right, we're giving you a brand new language that we have created that you have to learn. So, are you then reading a script in this language because and with the English script alongside, because I guess you have to you're looking at words that you don't understand because you've got a script full of them, and yet you still have to deliver the right emotion. Talk me through the process of that.
It was the language thing was really, really interesting because I think everybody also got it at different stages. There's out of the 6 of us, there's 4 of us that are UK based. Arno was out in Germany, and Luna, who plays the kid, is out in Switzerland. So we all probably got it at slightly different times. And I remember Chuku in particular, probably having some of the most dialogue at the beginning of the film as the leader of the group. He got it the last because he was like, they did the deal on him being cast very, very last minute. There was a whole debacle about casting and all this kind of stuff. So I remember when he showed up, he'd been told by Daniel, who created the language, the linguist. He was like, oh yeah, you haven't met Kit yet, but Kit's really good at the language. Go to him. I've had 2 sessions with this guy on Zoom on the language. And I think he thinks this is a professional linguist. He's not actually someone who really works in film. So we were kind of learning each other's industry a little bit. And he was very complimentary about me. But at the same time, I think he thought I knew more than I did. Because there'd be certain words that you'd see, like one of the words that would come up a lot of the time is Laashh, which I would read as large, and he'd be like, no, it's lèche, like in French, you know, and I'm like, sure. And because he's using influences of like Arabic and some kind of African tribal tones and some kind of ancient Scandinavian stuff, the idea is that these people have traveled through all these places. So he's got all these influences. I'd show up, and I remember Chuku meeting me, and he was like, bro, you got to help me out with the language, man. I'm at square one. And I was like, I don't know what you think I am. I'm not fluent. Like, I think we can make it up. Which of course we sort of could, but we sort of couldn't. What was interesting about the language is also, we all got to a point where we kind of really understood it. At the beginning, the first few takes of everything, you'd know your bit, but you'd kind of be looking at the other actor going, have you finished talking? Have you still got some more syllables, some more words to say? I actually don't know.
This is what I mean. It must have been so hard.
It was, but then you end up actually understanding some of the words because you know what they mean. They would often be like simplified versions of what the English was, and there were certain words that would come up several times. You know, if one word means something in English, it probably actually means all of the things that are also similar to it. So you'd actually kind of end up getting it. I remember towards the end of the film, there was a scene where me and Safia are kind of almost screaming at each other, like in the rain and the hail, and we didn't have any lines for it. And Andrew was like, "Kit, can you improvise some stuff like yes, no, stop, fuck off, I hate you, stuff like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know all those words." Because we've been doing it for like every day but also we shot the entire film in like 5.5 weeks. So we were just doing it every day. So there's 6 people in the world that can speak this language.
That's nice. That's a great claim to fame. And I guess I should say at this stage, while you are speaking this language, if anyone's like, oh, I don't know, I want to see a film where I don't understand what people are saying, it is subtitled. So we know what you're saying.
Good to know.
Actors. Yeah. I just suddenly realized as you were saying that, I was like, oh my God, I don't want people to think that you can't understand what is being said.
No, it is a subtitled film. It's also not an overly talky film.
No.
Like part of it was also like there are a lot of scenes where I think there's a scene kind of later in the third act which everyone was talking about as like the talky bit, and even in the script it was like this is not a long scene. There's just two people talking when there's so much that happens without speech. So the subtitles are important to note. Um, and yeah, I mean, but it's just kind of bonkers to do. Also, what was funny was the crew. Also, they go action, we talk. They go cut, and they go, well, we assume you got it right because we don't speak it. Yeah.
It's a wonderful film. Out of Darkness is hitting cinema screens, which I cannot emphasize enough is a great place to see this movie on February the 9th. Kit, it is now time to leave this reality and enter a dimension of pure film where our virtual cinema awaits. You are our guide. We are your audience. Kit, let's go on your trip to the movies. So we push open the doors to our temple of film and find ourselves in the foyer. There's an excited buzz, as there always is in a cinema foyer, the hum of anticipation. It's your perfect cinema trip, Kit. Who have you picked, living or dead, to go with you?
I'm choosing my parents. I'm choosing my parents because I don't think I've been to the movies with my parents since I was a child, properly. Like it was something that they'd take me to. My dad would take me a lot. Sometimes I go with my mum, but I think I'd love to just sit between my parents now as an adult and just be like, this is what I do. But I'm also just watching it as you're watching it, especially something obviously I'm not in. Just being like, I'm just seeing, especially if I know we've just talked about horror, especially if it was a horror, because I know my mum would be terrified. So it'd be fun to sit next to them and just have their reactions. Yeah.
Did they let you go and see movies that you wanted to see as a kid, or did they? Some parents manage what their children see, make sure they don't watch things too early and stuff. I guess when it's the cinema, there's the rating system. Did they ever take you to something that like you knew that maybe you shouldn't be seeing?
On the whole, I think maybe if I was 10, there'd be a discussion about watching a 12A. Be like, is he too young? But on the whole, I was, age rating wise, I was always at the kind of the right stages. If I wasn't, and we might get into this into a bit, it was a different parent's fault. You know, when you go with your friend, you go with your friend and their parents, and like, if I came back a scarred child, there would be words. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that experience. Yeah, my mum let me and my friend watch Aliens. This was on VHS, and his mum was not happy with that.
But we're up in a whole new ballpark now, which is if you're watching it at home, that's a whole other thing. Because also you can just do it after go to sleep. You know, you just kind of go, ooh, Terminator. You know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to? Are you going to take your parents to see Out of Darkness? Are you going to take people? Because again, you've been waiting a long time for this to hit cinemas.
I think I think I am. I think it's also a film that I think is really good to see in the cinema. I'm really glad that it's got a cinematic release. I mean, nowadays when you're making a film, it's really hard to gauge when you make it kind of what that initial release would be. Nothing against streaming, because I've done that too. But I think there's something about this film.
That would be a mad thing for you to say. Yeah, streaming. Yeah.
I mean, terrible. Kind of most of my career.
Shadow and Bone, The School of Good and Evil.
Exactly. But I think there's something about I think a shared horror experience in the dark that kind of naturally goes with the cinema. Because I think even if you were going to watch it at home, this is the kind of film where you go like, go on, turn off all the lights. No, all of them. Yeah, now, and just let it creep in on you. I want people to see it on the big screen as well.
Lovely. Yeah. You are taking your parents to our virtual cinema. Now, there is a clock on the wall in the foyer. It reads a specific time, Kit. What time of day are we going to the cinema?
We're going evening. I also want to go to a late one. I really love late screenings. I say evening. I want it to be one of those where it's like, you know, the awkward ones when they're not allowed to do it at midnight. It has to be the day before. They go, it's midnight and 1 minute. Those are the screenings. The midnight and 1 minute screenings are my favourite.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not evening. You want to go to the late show.
Dead of night. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All All right. Okay, good. And your parents are going to be happy with that because obviously, as a slightly older man myself, I'm like, well, 10 o'clock is sort of my cutoff, but you're saying late night.
Yeah, I think there'll be a novelty to it. It's also like, I don't typically go to the cinema and have a hard drink, but I think when you do it, then it's kind of like, let's get a beer or a glass of wine and sit there, and then it's interesting. You come out at 3 and you probably see everybody coming out of bars, and you kind of go, we've just been to the movies. It just feels like a slightly different vibe. I think the novelty aspect of it is something I'd lean into.
Yeah. You've been in a bar. We've been imbibing culture. So
Yes.
look at us. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, then. I'm going to send you and your parents at 1 minute past midnight to the cinema. Now, you booked the tickets for this trip. Very kind of you. Where in the auditorium are we going to be sitting?
Not too far forward, because I know me and my dad will all get neck pain looking up at the screen, especially if it is a big auditorium. But I do like to sit at the back, like right at the back. I do enjoy that because it's just unsettling having someone behind you all the time is really loud. But I think if you're there for the audience experience, I think it's a packed out audience, right in the centre, dead centre, you can see everything. I think that's kind of the dream.
Popular choice, Kit. Very popular choice on the show.
Often hard to book those tickets.
This is your perfect cinema trip. You've got those tickets. You've got the golden tickets. They're all yours. No, they are. It's a popular seat, and scientifically, from various technical sound engineers, the best place both visually and audibly to watch the movie.
That's the other thing, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and with a movie like Out of Darkness, whoa, the sound design. May I bother you with one of the most boring, overused cliches in the world? The sound design is a character in itself. But it really
very apt. It's correct. It is. It truly is. It's. I think that's one of the main reasons to also go. It's like you're plunged into darkness, but also that it's all around you. The sound design is incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's a moment where in the woods sequence where it's almost like
building.
Yeah, and the monster's noise. You're like, oh, that's the monster making that noise, and then it melds so perfectly with the score and the sound design that you're like, was that the monster or was that the score? What is going on?
Yeah. It does it so well. It's really, really great. Yeah.
Yeah. If it wasn't obvious already. Fan of the movie. Right then, the air in the foyer is full of wonderful smells. All manner of snacks and foodstuffs are available at the various counters. What are you choosing to eat?
I'm going for a classic large combo, popcorn mixed salt and sweet, because also if it's a long old film, I want to get a bunch of flavours. And then, I'm probably getting that and a large Coke and making sure I pee beforehand.
Good. I mean, look, I'm going to say this right now. You sound like you're an experienced cinema goer, Kit, because the pee beforehand is essential.
Absolutely,
this is day one of going to the cinema.
I think I go to the cinema in the same way that dads plan to go to the airport. Like I think that there's a certain level of there isn't quite an objective checklist, but mentally it's all there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. You start thinking about it the day before, and if you're going with friends, you're ringing them up, and you go, you do remember to go for a pee before the movie? Good.
Yeah, exactly.
Be there in time for the trailers, all of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's 3:15, not 3:30. Yeah.
Brilliant. We've got everything we need. Let's get out of the foyer. We push open the doors to the corridor down towards the auditorium. Now, the corridor is looking pretty bare at the moment, so I'm going to put up some posters that illustrate some of your most important movie memories. And the first poster depicts, Kit, your fondest movie memory.
This is really hard to pick because as you can tell, seasoned cinema goer. But there was a really, really lovely time. I think it was probably like one of the first times that I'd started to kind of make any sort of money working in screen. And my youngest sister, who's 10 years younger than me, she was still very much at school. And I was like, older brother, take her out for a treat. And I took her to go and watch Paddington 2. I went back. I grew up in Oxford, so I went back to Oxford, took her to the cinema, like during the day. And it's one of those where it's like a weekday thing, so actually there aren't too many people in. It's lots of like young parents with young kids. And so I was like the one that was like, no, not a parent. It's my sibling. But then what I didn't expect was to be like sobbing at the end of the film. It was brilliant. And I think she was also looking at me like, are you okay, bro? And I was like, yeah, absolutely fine. Kind of like Andrew Garfield in the most recent Spider-Man. I was just there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's yeah. I mean, Paddington 2. What a movie! Hugh Grant in that movie. I mean, he's just
Outstanding.
so good, so good.
Yeah.
I know we've.
Outstanding.
I mean, did you see Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Right, he's great in that. It's the same character, I'll admit, but he's so good in it.
Yeah. He's so good. I think, he's having his villain era.
I'd argue Paddington 2 is one of those rare occasions where a sequel is better than the original. Do you concur?
I do. I agree wholeheartedly. I do. Yeah, it's rare these days, but well done, everybody. It's brilliant. And I'm excited for the third, which is, rumour has it, still on its way. Yeah.
Yes. And other sequels, let's do it. Other sequels that are better than the original.
Other sequels.
Godfather 2, obviously.
Godfather 2, yes. I mean, that's also a high bar to surpass, but yes, I do agree.
Give me your take on this one, because this is one that I've not had stand-up rows about, but I have dug my heels in. Aliens is better than Alien.
Oh, I find that hard. I've also got to slightly. I've got to be careful here because I'm currently working on an Alien project, and so I'm all wrapped up in it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yes, doing the TV show for it. So kind of like, which I can't say anything about, but obviously this is something we discuss. Alien is one of the most quintessential horror films, brilliant of all time. Aliens is one of the greatest action films of all time. There are elements of both genres in there, but they are slightly living in different camps. I have a love for the first one. I'm not sure. I'm going to put them like this. But I will raise you one. It's tricky when you get into trilogies. The Dark Knight, I think, is a stronger film than Batman Begins.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Yeah, but also I would say, is The Two Towers better than The Fellowship? I think I love it more. Just like you got Helm's Deep, you're in. But
I'm going to go with yes on that. Yeah. I completely appreciate you sitting on the fence for the Alien question, because
I don't want to upset people at work.
It's as simple as that, right? You're obviously in London at the moment, but you've been out in Bangkok filming. I'm only saying things that are out there already.
I go back next week. Yeah, go back next. It's also kind of slightly mad because we got stopped because of the strikes, and we all thought we'd be back within like 3 weeks, and now it's been 5 months. Since we were there, so it'll be like going back into having costume fittings and stuff, and they're like, you've changed weight, and I'm like, yes, Christmas happened. But yeah, no, very much looking forward to getting back to it.
As a huge Alien fan, I can't think of a better person to be bringing this to the screen than Noah Hawley. It must be. I imagine it's kind of an actor's dream working with him on this.
Very much so. Very much so. He's a real kind of like I don't know quite how to say it, like a forensic architect with everything. Like he's done it. It's just all there. And so I've already been witness to a few times of someone going, like, someone very excited. They're like, okay, well, I've got this idea and this, and well, it could be this. And chances are he'll listen and go, yeah, that's great. Okay, cool. But if you look at the original idea, you'll go, yeah, it's still better. So we'll just do what he did, what he put down. It's very exciting, and I think he's the perfect person to kind of helm it. Yeah, it's great.
roll on
Roll on.
2025, which is when that's coming out.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say on the matter is I've as long as I've been watching the Alien movies as an adult, I've wanted it to be set on Earth. I've wanted to see
Yeah.
xenomorphs on Earth,
Yeah.
and that the principle of that alone excites me.
And after 9 films, finally, you're going to do a TV show where that would be the case. Yeah. Because as soon as they said that, I was like, no way, they haven't already done that, right? I was like, they haven't done that yet. I was like, oh, cool, you get to be the first. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a lot of fun.
The only time we've seen it is at the end of Alien Resurrection, and it's a bit rubbish. But that's
Yes, Resurrection is different. Yeah.
We don't see aliens on Earth; we just see Earth, and it looks a bit run down. I'm gonna. I can see you're on high alert about Alien, and I do not want to get you into trouble, Kit. So
no,
I am
we'll have to do a follow up another time.
Yeah, I can't wait. Oh, please come back and talk about that with me. But right now, we'll carry on down the corridor and put up another poster. And this, Kit, depicts your worst movie memory.
Well, we slightly hinted at this before, talking about parents allowing you to go and see stuff. I was far too young to watch The Village in the cinema with Joaquin Phoenix. It's a horror movie that I went with my friend, because my friend, I think I was in primary school still. Like I would have been like year 5, year 6. And
Okay, that is
like,
young. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, have you ever been in the cinema where you're scared and you see someone just doing this, slightly putting their fingers in their ears, and someone next to them goes like, "You're right," and I'm like, "Yeah, just having a scratch, but also blinking a lot," and I was terrified, and the sound was terrifying, and the monsters were terrifying, and also it's not actually a film that is like a monster film. It's much more cerebral than that. It's much more kind of like oppressive environment and what people will do to each other, and I think it was one of those experiences that kind of made me grow up a little bit too quickly. I was like, oh, adults do these things to each other? It was one of those.
It's so interesting that like you've taken it to this psychological place. I'm
clearly still scarred.
Yeah, this is a triggering answer for you. I get that. It's. I mean, your analysis of it though is interesting because it is a movie that it almost was quite prescient in so much as it predicted the future of like the way the world has kind of become, and not in the best way. You've got a group of people that just exist in their echo chamber and just like it basically saw what the internet was going to become with just people and the algorithm going, here's more of the same. Don't look over there. Stay in here. It's the village.
Yeah, it really is. It feels now it feels like if it hadn't been done, it would be a Black Mirror episode. Like it's kind of like you can now go back, and I think especially with horror, you can go back and have a look. And so many horror films are basically morality stories. You're kind of like, if that person does a bad thing, they're probably going to get got. But you can go back and look at stuff, and you kind of go like, wow, you said all these things that now we're just living with the internet, and it makes it even scarier, really. But The Village.
Right, a poster for M. Night's The Village is going up as your worst movie memory. Okay, let's carry on. The third poster we're putting up depicts the last performance that brought you to tears, Kit.
Yeah, it's Brendan Fraser in The Whale. I was pretty late to the party, having seen it. I'd also recently just met him.
Oh wow!
I'd met him. I was doing a Comic-Con for Shadow and Bone, and he was there. It was quite an amazing one. It was out in New York, and it was also like the reunion for Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, like the first time I've seen together in a long time. It blew me away. But like on the third day, because we're all in the same green room, on the third day I was like, and on the third day, Brendan was kind of in the corner, and his team are kind of doing different stuff, and I was like, listen, kid me is going to lose it if I don't go over and say hello, right? And so I went over, and he was so lovely, and I was kind of like, oh hi, how are you? And I was like, "I'm great." He's like, "Where are you from? You from London?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "I'm going to London for this film festival, which Out of Darkness was also playing at." And I was like, "Oh, cool." I wasn't going to get to be there. He was like, "Yeah, for this movie I'm doing, The Whale." In my head, I'm like, "Yeah, I know what that is, and I'm pretty sure you're a lock-in for the Academy Award." But obviously, this is kind of earlier in the kind of campaign. Like the standing ovation at Venice Film Festival had happened, but not everybody was aware of it yet. And I was just looking at this guy, being like, "I used to watch you every week on George of the Jungle," and I used to watch The Mummy, and this guy's in front of me, this incredible presence. And then I watched it. I watched it. Like, when films start to go out of cinemas, and you're like, "Oh no, I've almost missed it. I need to find a place." So I went to a cinema I don't normally go to, watched it with my friend, and we again just sobbed. And then we went for a drink afterwards, and just kind of sat in silence, just kind of like, "Wow, he did all that," and it was so impressive. I think it was absolutely outstanding, and it's just an extra, like, blowing my mind that I'd come across him at that time, at that time in his story.
That's amazing. So all the various and all the various when you said that all the various people, you're all in the same green room before you all migrate to your various stages at the event. So
Yeah,
are you just looking around a room full of, like, your Michael J.
a,
Foxes, your Christopher Lloyds, your Brendan
yeah,
Frasers?
a little bit. Yeah, Michael J. Fox kind of had his own kind of like trailer because health wise he's been looked after.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, Christopher Lloyd is just kind of like casually there getting his coffee or whatever. And I'm there like going, "Don't say Great Scott, don't say Great Scott, don't say Great Scott." Um, and obviously, and
Great
people are very
Scott, this is
transient.
good coffee. Great,
Yeah,
really casual.
exactly. Yeah,
See whether
really
he
trying to,
bites. Yeah.
yeah, trying to be cool. Unfortunately, like, I was also there with like other cast members from my show, so like we can kind of like group together and keep each other sane. Um,
Right.
but there's always, like, at all those events, there's always people that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this person from either my childhood, or someone that I've been watching your work last week." There's always a little bit of that. People are always also really, really friendly to each other, and you don't always get to meet everybody. But I remember, like, the first con I did, and they were like, "They're really excited you're here," and I was like, "Really? I don't really know what this is." And then I walk out, and next to me, then following table, on one side of me was Christopher Eccleston. So there was all the Doctor Who fandom, and I was like, "Well, I can't compete with that." And I was like, "My show's been out for like 5 months, and no one's going to know who I am." On the other side of me is William Shatner. And I was like, all the Trekkies. And I'm like, it's not fair that you put me in the middle of those two. That was just not cool. And then, like, George Takei walks out and like has a little hug with William Shatner, and I'm just here like, why have I got a table? I should be in the queue. I should just be like, I'm stunned that this is happening. So yeah, it's a very kind of interesting, bizarre crossover thing that can happen, which I'm very grateful for, because I got to meet Brendan Fraser and all those other guys.
Oh, and Shadow and Bone fans are not a small number either, though.
No joke. They're no joke. They're serious,
Mm.
and they are so wonderful and so lovely and so friendly. They also they really travel, and lots of people do from lots of fandoms. But I remember, like, a lot of the things I've done when you've met people in person have been in Europe. Um, but you get people who come from all over. I was doing a one man show at the end of last year, and on the first day, I come out into the bar, signing a couple of things here and there, and people were like, there was someone with a suitcase, and I was like, "Oh wow, thank you, like, you've travelled. Where have you come from?" And they were like, "Singapore," and I was like, "To Finsbury Park in North London, really?" Like, it really kind of blew my mind. But yeah, they really are the best. They are amazing.
This is a really interesting question to ask of someone who's in a really popular series like Shadow and Bone, a
Yeah,
massive IP, but who also, you're a prolific stage actor. When you get do you, and what's it like to get fans from Shadow and Bone come to see you in a play because they know they're going to see you in person, who might not
yeah.
necessarily get what the play is at all or ever have been to a play?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, I've done a lot of theatre, but most of it I did before any sort of notoriety or being stopped in the street for anything, right? So it's kind of pre Shadow and Bone, which was really
Mm.
the inciting incident.
Good,
Uh,
good. One for the script writers out there, everyone.
there you go.
Love it.
It was very interesting doing this show, which was really the first kind of play I've done since then. And it's a one-man show. So also all the promo stuff for it is just pictures of me. So people come. It was also a magic show. It's a whole story, but like it was. I'm now a magician, also apparently. But I was doing the show
for real. For like, you actually are a magician, or you were playing magician, or can you do magic? Can you do magic now?
Yeah. I was taught the magic, and now I can do magic. Yeah.
What?
So stay tuned. Yeah, a very very lucky turn of events. But I was doing the play, and you'd have people who like show up. Like, okay, so put in perspective, there was a show that was on my birthday, and the first half of this show kind of it feels like, oh, it's Kit doing a magic show. It's me talking to the audience. It's very kind of like there's no fourth wall. You can't really tell that it's a play or that there's a narrative. It just feels like, oh, Kit's bringing us in, and it's all comfortable to be here. Then the second half suddenly gets very dark, and the narrative comes through. It becomes a revenge story. And it gets very, very dark very, very quickly. And you realise someone in the audience is going to die and he's going to kill them. So you know it's bleak. But I come on for Act 2 on my birthday, and it's very sombre, and there's a single spotlight. And I turn out into the audience, and I can see 70% of the audience in the interval have gone away and put on party hats because it's my birthday in life. And they're all the Shadow and Bone fans that have gone, we booked specifically to be here on Kit's birthday. They passed it around to other people who don't really know, and have just gone, sure, why not? Including like my family. And they're all just sat there like this. Multicolored party hats. And I'm there like, I'm about to do a monologue about how a member of my family has killed themselves, like really bleak stuff. And I'm looking at these people like, oh, okay. How am I going to deal with this? And then also using volunteers and going, you in the blue party hat, come on stage. Like, you know, it was a unique experience because it's like you have to also reconcile why they're there as well as the people who've just come to see a show. Very, very bizarre new territory for me. Yeah.
Oh, love the fact you're a magician now. It's I think you may be the first magician we've had on the show.
Oh, well, I'll take that with a badge of honour. Yeah, I'll take that.
It must be quite fun to be able to do magic. I've always thought, hey, look, we should carry on down the corridor and put up the fourth poster before we get to the auditorium itself. And this poster depicts, Kit, your unpopular movie opinion.
Never watch a movie on your phone. Never do it. But movie trailers, you can.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, no, any movie. I mean, for example, I saw someone on a plane recently watching Avatar 2: Way of the Water on the back.
That must just be a blue screen. Avatar 2. That's blue people in blue water. If you can't distinguish what's going on, I mean, listen. If you've seen it a bunch of times before, I'll give you a pass. If you've seen it a bunch of times, but for instance, I've got you on my iPad now.
Right.
I will watch a film on my iPad. It's a big enough screen. But my phone, I feel like my eyes are bigger than this. Obviously they're not, but I feel like they are. It feels like I'm missing out. And also like the sound quality and so on and so forth. Unless, you've got the good headphones. But yeah, I'd say trailers are fine. Don't watch a movie on your phone.
Movies not on phones. Do you know who agrees with you? David Lynch, film director David Lynch. He's one of the most vocal people on this matter. I'll tell you what he said and see if you agree in such strong terms. You think you'll have experienced it, but you'll be cheated. It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
Listen, if you can put us in touch, we'll talk about this further.
Oh, good. I'm glad after that quote you're like, I'd like to talk more with that angry
exactly. Yeah. I think I can approach it from a slightly calmer perspective, but I am in agreement. Yeah.
Right. That's it. We've reached the final set of doors. We push them open into the auditorium. Now there's a queue of people hoping to join you in the auditorium. Do you want to let them in? Do you want a busy screen?
Yeah. I want it to be packed. I want it to feel like it's a group event. Yeah, like is
Well,
it? I think you get it with big event films that you kind of go, we're all experiencing this together. This is a really kind of beautiful thing, and it feels like something you remember. It's not just, oh yeah, I've seen that, I've seen that. It's like, oh no, the day I saw that film, everybody was on one. Like yeah, it feels special.
well, the crowd go wild. They pour into the auditorium. Now, before the movie you've picked for us begins, we're going to play a few little bits and pieces that you've selected to screen on our huge screen. And the first thing we're playing is the trailer for the movie you're most looking forward to seeing at the cinema.
Dune Part Two. I think.
Ah,
I think. I think that's the first. It's a given our previous question. It's a big one that's like you have to see it, like up there. And that first one was outstanding visually, and I'm like, well, you didn't finish the story. Give us the next bit. So I'm looking forward to that a lot.
yeah. You mentioned Paddington 3, so let me tease you with there's talk of a June 3. Maybe Denis
Really?
Villeneuve says it would be his dream to make 3 movies.
Oh my gosh! But is that just because he still hasn't finished the book, or is it that he wants to do a sequel? Yeah. I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
I think there was I think Frank Herbert wrote a third book because I think he felt that everyone after the first novel thought Paul Atreides was a hero, and he was like, "That's not what it was meant to be. Here's a third
Yeah.
book."
Keep writing. Yeah, exactly.
All right, then. The trailer for Dune Part 2 plays out on the screen. Next up, we're going to
Yeah.
play the movie moment that makes you literally or metaphorically pump your fist in the air.
To be clear, it's very rare that I metaphorically pump my fist without actually doing it. I'll always follow through and do it.
concur. I
Yeah.
can vouch for that. When I said how much I loved Out of Darkness earlier, you literally pumped your fist.
I literally did. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I love those moments when the unlikely hero or the sidekick gets the heroic moment and maybe the quippy line. Example, Samwise Gamgee, I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. Picks up Frodo, goes up Mount Doom. Moments like that where you're like, finally! And see, I'm doing it.
You did it.
You know?
And that was
literally did it.
reflex. Okay,
It was,
good.
yeah, moments like that. When the unlikely hero gets the line and you go, there they go, they've been overlooked. And now they get their moment. Yeah, those ones.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So we're counting out moments where it's a genuine hero, like where, for want of a better example, where Thanos goes, "I am inevitable," and Tony Stark goes, "I am Iron Man." He's already a hero.
That he's already a hero. I mean, no, I'll put them in there because those are the big payoff ones. Like I'd say, if you're thinking that film, it's also like the ones that are a surprise. Like Captain America actually gets the hammer. Like when the hammer flies him, and you're like, oh, like you weren't expecting it, but it makes sense in your brain. It's a payoff from ages ago. Those ones are the ones that hit different, I think, because you're like,
Oh,
who saw this coming?
I get you. So
Yeah.
okay, because Bruce Banner is not particularly heroic in Infinity War, so
Yeah.
he gets the line when Thor arrives. Oh, you guys are so screwed now.
Yeah,
So,
stuff like that. Yeah.
Got
Those
you.
those ones really, 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 they tickle me. Love those.
Love it. All right, we'll play your example of Samwise Gamgee. I love that moment. Right, next we're going to play on the big screen what you consider cinema's most shocking moment.
I find it hard to pick a shocking moment. I think we just talked about like, have you finished the story? I think anytime there's like a part one and then you have to wait a year for part two. I mean, I remember being in the cinema. This puts together a bunch of our different answers. I went to go watch Avengers Infinity War at the midnight plus 1 minute screening. Because I was at a pub and then was like, oh, it comes out tomorrow. Looked up and the cinema down the road from me where I used to live up in North London, that technically meant it was on today. So it was like, oh, we thought we could maybe go see it tomorrow night, but we can catch it tonight. Went and queued up, and everybody in the local area that was there queuing up for a ticket, they were all huge, like, Marvel fans. I've met some people. I met this one guy who's an actor. He was there with his son. We are now friends and have also since worked together by chance. But he was like queuing up there with his adult son. He was like, I grew up reading X-Men comics. And I was like, okay. And it was everybody was sat together experiencing this film, everybody who really cares, at midnight. It was 3 hours, beautiful. And at 3 minutes past 3 in the morning, everybody in the movie dies and the movie ends. And it was this entire collective of people who love this stuff and were bonded with each other over watching it. And then suddenly we're like, well, where do we go from here? It's like you just
therapy.
got the
straight into group therapy.
It's exactly the same feeling as when you were living at home in COVID and you watch a government address and they go, "Yeah, guys, it's not looking good." Turns out it's all going down the drain, and you're like, "Well, thanks, Thanos."
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, the end of that movie is a great example. Thanos finally rests and watches the sunrise on a grateful universe. Beautiful moment, but you are left going, well, I need to know what happens now. But then when they're both on home viewing and you can watch those two back to back, it's one of the greatest movie experiences.
Yeah, that's tremendous. But yeah, cliffhanger like that is the one that hurts. And it's shocking.
All right. Yeah. What line or piece of dialogue most affected you, Kit?
I think it's just because it's one that comes up in conversation. It's odd that this comes up in conversation, I will say. But, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Truman Show, man.
How does that come up in conversation? Tell me.
I don't really know. I think it's one of those things that I might say to people if I don't see them for a long time. I don't know why. But,
I like it.
Yeah. It's not something I would say to someone I'll see tomorrow. Or my neighbours. I don't just quote Jim Carrey at strangers. But or maybe I do. But it's one that just rattles around my head. I just think it's such a good line. Yeah. I think it's such a good line. There's so many to choose from there.
All right, we hear, and if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Bounce round the theatre in Dolby Atmos. And the final question before we get to the movie you're screening for us is, what do you consider the best use of music in a movie?
I mean, any John Williams track, but if I had to pick one of his films, I would say his score, specifically from The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh,
the collection of themes that are all in that film are iconic forever. Because it's the first one when you get the Imperial March. First time you don't get it in the first film, you only get it in that one. You get the Han and the Princess stuff, you get Yoda's stuff. It's incredible. Nerddom coming out here.
Wow.
Love my film music.
The final notes of John Williams' Empire Strikes Back score echo and fall silent. It is now time to reveal to us, your parents, this packed auditorium, the movie out of all others, Kit, you have chosen to screen for us tonight. What are we watching at 1 minute past midnight?
We're watching The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
Magnificent Seven. The OG. The Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen. I think it's just like, it's one of those Sunday films that you'd watch on TV as a kid. Like you just have all the westerns on or whatever it was, and it just makes me feel warm inside. And I think if I'm going to pick something for a group of people that have probably already seen the thing, I want it to be something you haven't seen in a while, or something that you go like, here's a classic, you've never seen it, check it out. I think there's also so many wonderful stories about the making of that film, and I could be that annoying person afterwards going, did you know? Which I greatly enjoyed being that annoying person. But yeah, it's also the kind of film that, like, if they were to remake it again and again, I would consider hurting someone badly to get my chance to be in that. Yeah.
So that, of all movies, that is the one you would chew your arm off, which you shouldn't do because you need to hold a pistol in it, to play a role in The Magnificent Seven. Or
one of a few. I mean, yeah, if I'm ever gonna have to be a gunslinger again, that's the type of thing I'd want to do. I think because it's like Seven Samurai. It's like it's got so many roots and all those kind of stories of good and evil and ensemble team stuff. It's up there. I think it's just genius. Yeah.
And you say one of a few. Have you? What else is on this wish list, Kip?
Things I'd love to do if it came across. I mean, you know, if someone were to I wouldn't complain if someone put a lightsaber in my hand. Um, I wouldn't complain. I would thank them profusely. In fact, doesn't matter what color the lightsaber is. Just give me a lightsaber, preferably red. Um, yeah, I think I'm all about wanting to do different genres now and being surprised. I mean, there's a film that I'm in that's coming out next month called The Beautiful Game, which is a football film.
Oh, with Bill
Never
Nighy.
thought I'd, yeah, never thought I'd do a football film. Was thrilled, terrified about it at the beginning. So thrilled that I did it. Same with Out of Darkness. Never thought I'd be doing a prehistoric horror film set in a completely made up place in a completely different language that has never been heard before. But am I glad I did it? Of course I am. So I'm letting myself be surprised. Um, yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting. We are very, very almost out of time. In fact, slightly running over, so I will ask this very quickly. It's our final question. The curtains have closed on the Magnificent Seven, but you are taking the stage, mic in hand, to tell this audience an exclusive fact about your career, past, present, or future.
I'm just saying, I don't know about exclusive. I've already been acting for a long time, better part of 20 years already, because I started pretty young. But I plan to do it for a very, very long time. There's no expiry date on this thing. So stay tuned.
Oh, mate, it's been a pleasure talking to you. The taxi has arrived to ferry you back to reality. So all that's left to do is for me to say, Kit Young, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. I'd love it if you would check out some of the other interviews on our channel. They're all fascinating and unique trips to the movies with some wonderful, wonderful guests. And if you would like to find out more, do hit us up on our social channels. We are at Trip to Movies Pod. That's at Trip to Movies Pod on all social media with lovely content on there. And you can get in touch with us if you so wish. Thanks again.